Hey guys, King Kaiju here, today back with a Kaiju review. This is the third attempt I've tried with recording this video, and hopefully this will be the last one. I thought I would break up my reviews of figures that I got in that box a couple of days ago, and to do that, I'm going to be reviewing a monster that I haven't seen a ton of coverage on. I think there's a reason for that, and I'll get into that more as we go throughout the video. That monster is Telesdon. This is the Bandai one, of course. I'm not sure exactly of the year. I know that there's a bunch of Telesdons that they made, but this is the most accurate looking one anyway. And while I do think that there are some good things the figure does bring to the table, overall, I do think it's one that you might want to pass on re-recording because the audio got fucked up. At least for certain prices. I think at a certain price this figure is worth it, but not for the ones that a lot of people are selling them for. But I'll get more into that as I go throughout the review, starting off with the detail. Now, for once, I actually think the paint is probably the strongest point on the figure, although it's not the best, but you know, we'll get into that more. There is a lot of great shading throughout it. It's hard to see on the camera, but it is not just this matte brown. They do add a lot of shadowing effects to it, like throughout the face and the back. Pretty much the entire body has it, and it looks pretty good. But other than that, that's really the only color the figure has. He did, at one point, have painted fingernails, and still kind of does have painted toenails, but there isn't too much else, of course, besides the eyes. Like, his teeth are unpainted, there's no paint in the mouth, the giant spike on his back here does not have any paint. I think they could have maybe painted those up a little bit, but I do know that especially the teeth, it would have been kind of difficult. But nonetheless, still think they could have added it. Now, with the paint out of the way, my biggest problem with this figure is the sculpt. More in particular, how they posed the figure when they were sculpting it. The detail on him is phenomenal, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great marks on it that look like an actual kaiju suit. But with that being said, I do think this is one of those figures that looks too much like a guy in a suit. Like, I get it that the monster already kind of looks like that, but he really does not got a ton going on for him in terms of his pose. Kind of spoiling for size comparisons here, I'm going to bring out Black King. Black King is another very basic monster, just in concept, but Bandai did go out of their way to kind of make him a little bit more interesting. For one thing, his arms are bent a little bit to where it looks like he's kind of clawing. His legs also have a slight bend to them. It's kind of hard to see. I have to whack Telesdon in the head to show you, but they are bent a little bit to where it looks like he's kind of like, you know, he's sat. He's ready to attack another monster or something like that. Telesdon is straight-legged. There is no curve whatsoever in his legs. His arms are just flat to his side. He looks like he's just kind of standing there. And even Black King, I guess, has kind of a more neutral expression on him. Meanwhile, Telesdon almost has a goofy look to him, like he's kind of just sitting there going, It's not a bad idea to make a neutral-looking figure, especially if you're working with a monster that's not that interesting. That's perfectly fine. But you can do a few more things to make the figure look overall interesting. Man, I really fucked the audio up here. Telesdon does not have that effect at all. He just looks like a guy in a corner. That's it. And with my main complaint out of the way, I will now go into articulation, which also is nothing really to write home about. God damn it. His arms can rotate. They can go 360 degrees. If you want him to, he can give you a bear hug or something like that. His legs can kick. You can make him walk. All that fun stuff that I usually talk about. And his tail can perform a solid 360. Wow, how interesting. I will say especially, I think they could have added a lot more considering that this guy is pretty much entirely made up of seam lines. Like, his entire body is cut into segments. So they could have added something at the head, maybe, you know, something else at the tail, or another very basic Bandai trope is just to give him like a seam cut right here so he can swivel at the waist, but no, nothing. He just has those 5 points and that's it. So putting Telesdon awkwardly to the side, let's compare him to a couple of other kaiju figures for sizing. Starting off with my last review, Jet Jaguar. They look okay next to each other. I do like how they contrast, and you know, Jet is just kind of a taller figure, so he is going to be looking over Telesdon just in terms of, you know, how tall his head is. But this is another good example. Jet is a neutral standing figure, but you know, his fists are curled up, his arms are a little bit farther apart. He kind of looks like he's about ready to kick a monster's ass. Meanwhile, Telesdon just looks like he's about to get his ass kicked. Looks like someone just told him an offensive joke or something like that. He just doesn't look too interesting. Next up, I'll bring in Black King again just to give you a better side-by-side comparison. Black King is going to be a little bit taller here, and again, he looks like he could smack the ever-loving crap out of Telesdon, but I'm gonna have him hold back for this one. And to really drive home my boring point, here is another Showa-era Ultraman monster, that being Antlar. And just in pretty much every way possible, I think that Antlar is the more visually stimulating figure.
I know, back-to-back recordings, what the fuck?
Telesdon is pretty much just a giant earthworm. Antlar is a beetle man, so I think that's a little bit more interesting to look at. You know, they did a lot of things just with the overall sculpt too that I think look a lot more interesting. For one thing, his arms are in different positions. They have a different position for each arm, and his legs are also curled a lot more to where he looks like he's kind of crouching. Telesdon just isn't doing any of that. He is just the most basic posed monster I think I have. I mean, overall, I don't think they look bad. This is a cool matchup to have. You know, they could team up on another monster or an ultra or something like that, but you know, just very boring, a lot more interesting in comparison. And that's going to be the review of the Telesdon figure, y'all. I will end on a positive note. I do think this figure is probably the best Telesdon figure that is on the market right now, at least for the articulated ones. I'm sure that there are better statues out there or something. If you're a big Telesdon fan, I would say, hey, if this figure strikes your fancy, get him. But if you're looking for another monster to add to your collection, I definitely don't think that this is the best one for you. He is just a very generic looking monster. He isn't doing anything interesting, and that's the worst crime I think that he has, is just the fact that he's boring. And I'm saying that as a Telesdon fan. I do like Telesdon as a monster. He just doesn't look interesting at all in this figure form. Kind of talking about like a price point that I think is good for this guy, I would say pick him up if you can find him for like $19 to $20. That's how much I paid for mine, and I have seen a lot more people that sell this guy for like 30, 40, I've even seen like up to 60, but I wouldn't pay next to nothing for him. I think that he is one of the cheaper ultra monsters. I know not in terms of what he actually goes for, but just like in terms of his quality. I would not go out of my way to pay that much. But with that out of the way, thank you all for watching. I hope some of you guys did enjoy this boring review. I'm glad to get Telesdon out of the way because now I can review his powered brethren, and I'll see you all in the next one for that.